Welcome everybody, this is Hammer Wolf bringing you my new series, Aces and Amateurs. I am here today to bring you Eternal. So I'm here with Kemper.
How's it going?
And I'm here with Victor.
Yo.
And we are going to try to talk a little bit about this game. So the ace for today is going to be Kemper. And how long have you been playing Kemper?
I've been playing this for about a month or so. Right now I'm in Diamond. I'm trying to hopefully get into Master bracket on the ladder.
So is Diamond pretty high?
I'm relatively high. I mean, the player base is not like huge, not like Hearthstone, but I mean it's still the second highest tier on the ladder.
All right, so second highest tier is pretty good. I have been playing this game for maybe a week, so I know a little bit about how the mechanics work. Don't know anything about the cards. How about you, Victor? What do you know about this game?
I found out it existed Saturday.
Okay, well that's so not very experienced, you would say?
If I were prone to understatement, yes, I would say exactly that.
Okay, so we're gonna try to hop right in, and we're going to let Jason kind of steer the conversation, and me and Victor will ask questions as we see fit. So this is from a weekly open series. This is the finals, I believe.
Yeah.
So what kinds of could you give me a broad sense of what kind of decks we're looking at? Maybe an archetype.
So we're looking at two control decks here, and fortunately, like, most of the control decks in this game are still very interactive. So you're not going to be like sitting behind a whole bunch of counter spells or anything, and a whole lot of do nothings. These decks, both of them play creatures. They play interactive spells. So we should see a fairly interactive game here.
Is there another game that you can compare this to? Like, what's the next closest CCG you think, relatively?
The next closest CCG, honestly, is probably Magic Online.
Okay.
Magic the Gathering Online. Direwolf Digital, the company that produces this game, is actually made up of a lot of Magic pros, and so they take there are a lot of influences from Magic in this game, in the mechanics, and some of the card designs, even down to like it uses a different type of combat system than, like, say, Hearthstone. It uses like the Magic combat system.
So you would say the closest is Magic the Gathering, then?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's blocker oriented, unlike Hearthstone. Hearthstone is attacker oriented.
Yes.
Okay, so how does the mana system work? Or the resource system, I should say.
I think it's these sigil thingies.
So the sigil thingies, yeah. How does that work?
Yeah, so the sigils, it's, again, very similar to Magic the Gathering, that you put cards in your deck that generate mana, or in this game it's called power. They also generate influence as well, which is similar to the colors in Magic.
Okay, so I'm seeing this, like, this guy has 5 out of 5. Is that the number of resources he has?
Exactly. He has a maximum of 5 resources available per turn, and right now it's at 2 out of 5, so he's used 3, but he's got 2 left until the beginning of his next turn.
Okay.
All right, and those symbols off to the right of
That's what I was going to ask.
So that represents the amount of influence he has. There are 5 different factions, different colored factions in the game, and you gain influence to them. And you can see on the cards there are different colored pips on them, and that's basically their influence requirement. So let's say Harsh Rule in
Bottom left there.
It's a 5-cost card that has 2 green pips on it, 2 justice pips. Green is the justice faction. That means that it requires 5 power to play, and you have to have at least 2 justice influence in order to play it.
Okay. So what are these decks trying to do? I feel like the player on the top is ahead. I don't really know a lot about what these decks are trying to do. I know that the guy at the bottom has a lot of cards in hand, but the guy at the bottom's at 10. Guy at the top has 3 creatures on the battlefield, like 9 total power.
So yeah, so the guy on the player on top, Linux, is playing a Felon control deck, which is
that actually just changed everything.
This is true. The Harsh Rule.
So what happened there?
The Harsh Rule. Kamado played Harsh Rule, which is if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering, it's basically Wrath of God. It destroys all creatures in play.
Okay, so that reset the whole board.
Yes.
Do you think that gave Kamato a huge advantage now that he has all these cards in hand?
It did, especially what's going to give him a really big advantage. There's a card in his hand, the multicolored card actually. It requires one yellow pip. It has one yellow pip and two blue pips. The
I think you
chalice.
just played a copy of it.
Yeah, actually, it's
You
called
can see it.
Crystalline Chalice, and that's actually what the namesake of this deck is called. Chalice Control. It's named after that card, and that card is an insurmountable almost source of card advantage. It lets him exhaust one of his creatures, give it +2/+2, and draw a card once a turn.
Okay, so I see that his deck name is Chalice, and then in the top right we have Unex on Felon Control. What's Felon?
Felon is just the name attributed to the blue and purple combination. It's the primal is blue, shadow is purple. It's the Felon.
And together they are
So,
Felon.
is there like a mythos behind this where these names are coming from?
There is actually a pretty deep mythos. I'm not super familiar with it, just because that's not an aspect of the game that I usually pay a lot of attention to. But it does have a fairly deep lore. For those
So it does
that
feel
aren't
like the guy at the bottom stabilized, because when we were talking a little bit earlier, I felt like the game was just over, right?
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. That's the thing. Both of these decks are kind of tap-out control decks, and so they do need to, at some point, build a board presence, especially for the Chalice control deck, because it requires creatures on the field in order to utilize its Chalice. However, the Chalice control deck has access to a better board wipe,
Right.
essentially, than the Felon control deck, so it's easier for him to reset the board and then reestablish dominance.
Okay. So let's see. Now that they're all reset, he is at 4. Is that precarious? Is there any way for this Felon deck to create reach?
Well, he's at 9 now,
9
which
now.
seems a lot safer.
Yeah, not really, especially considering the Elenix's current situation of no cards in hand, just playing off the top. He didn't really have any reach in the deck to begin with. Also, there's actually a sizable amount of life gain in the Chalice control deck. So
his life
second
gain.
Chalice coming down.
Okay, so does that mean he can use it twice? Like each one gets
Chalice.
to be
Oh,
used?
right, yeah, no, each chalice, so he has 2 chalices on him. Each one can be used once per turn. It costs 2
Okay.
mana. It can only target a creature with 2 or less power, but all the creatures that it's playing pretty much have 2 or less power.
Until he uses it once.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, each creature he's playing has tacked on +2/+2 and draw a card.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah, assuming you can pay the mana for it. And so now I would say that Kamado has really taken over this game. And
Absolutely.
it feels a little bit insurmountable for the Felon control deck.
And I want to amend one thing I said earlier. I said that the Felon control deck did not have any reach. I believe he is playing a card called Channel the Tempest, which is actually in Kamado's hand right now. It's the 8 mana spell that requires 4 primal influence. That is a direct damage spell. So technically,
What does it do?
Well, you were about to find out.
About to find out.
The caster draws 3 cards and then deals damage equal to the amount of cards in their hand to an enemy. It can target a creature or a player.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
So that was the end of game 1. I think we're gonna maybe do 2 or 3 games here.